Hello guys and welcome back to another episode of I'm not sure what to call this, but it's the things that I've printed in 3D this week. First up, as a little bit of an update to last week's video, I showed you a couple of things that didn't work out quite right. Well, a couple of them worked out very, very well this week. First and foremost, I'm very pleased with this. The 1+1 sound amplifying dock that I tried to print several times in the last couple of weeks. I finally managed to get it printed. I moved away from using the stock M3D filament and started using this Hatchbox filament that I found on Amazon. You can find a link down in the video description. And I'm not gonna say there's anything really wrong with the M3D filament, it's just the Hatchbox filament I've gotten much better results out of so far. There's still a little bit of warping on larger things at this point, but it's not all that bad. And for something like this, it turned out just absolutely gorgeous. I can fit my little phone down in here. It's a little bit of a tight fit once it gets in there, but it's decently solid. It'll hold it just fine. Now, as far as the sound amplification abilities, I haven't really noticed anything much. You know, when I'm sitting it like this on a regular dock versus when I'm sitting it on this dock, it's a little bit more directional, but it's not anything massive, but still, very nice to have this as an option now. I'm thinking of delving into actually printing some of these 3D prints. So what I might do is go out and pick up either some white or some red spray paint the whole thing one color or the other, and then get some touch-up paint to do the little logo here. So do it all in red and then do white on the logo, or do all in white and then red for the logo. I think that would really make it pop. In other things that I've printed that I've been trying to print for weeks now that I've absolutely loved, this may not look like much, but this is a charging stand for the LG G Watch. So what I do is I take my little G Watch stand, I put it on the dock here. It's got a tiny little hole in the side which you can fit a USB cable through, and then you take the watch and you put it on the charging stand. And the one that I actually printed out has a little area where you can fit through the watch band, so it looks very nice, it lines up very nice, and there you go. You've got a little stand that will hold your watch while it's charging. And there's enough grippiness on the back of the charger itself that I haven't had to glue it or anything. That way, if I want to, I can take it off there. Of course, in the last few days, I've actually received the Sony smartwatch direct from Sony. So I'm gonna have to figure out if maybe there's a 3D printable stand for the Sony Smartwatch 3. Because it has a micro USB plug in the back instead of a plug on the side of a charging stand, I would have to be able to plug directly into it, so that may be a little bit more difficult. I'll be looking into that though. Keeping things rolling though, one of the things I saw early on that I was very interested in, just because it's kind of fun, is this. This is a little 3D printed top. It actually came with 3 different tips that you could put on it. I ended up super gluing this one on it. It was the largest of the 3. And I absolutely love this thing. My little one and I have been playing with it pretty much ever since it got off the printer. I haven't even taken the time to scrape this off and clean it up very well, just because he saw it and said, let's play with the top. And you can spin this because it has a very sharp tip on it. You can spin it on pretty much anything. You can put it on your hand and spin it. You can put it on one of your fingertips, and if you're careful enough, you can actually spin it on your fingertip. And just messing around with it, I've actually gotten it to spin on the tip of my fingertip. Look at that. And I've done it for a lot longer, but I'm in a weird position. I've got lighting and everything. Still, very nice. And it's just a little bit of fun. Now, as you guys are probably aware, this past week, the Avengers movie did release. And so a couple of things that I printed were more Avengers/superhero themed. Of course, you know, I had to print Mjolnir. Now, when I saw this pop up on the Microsoft Store Thingiverse page, I thought it was absolutely beautiful, and I thought it was going to be a little bit larger. Unfortunately, it does go to remind me that my printer prints very small. And I've looked at some of them that are 2-part assembly, and the handle in that is just a little bit too big for my current printer. So sometime down the road, I may be able to print things that are larger if I move to a larger printer, but for now, this is about as big. I could probably go a little bit bigger than this, but not much. But I am Thor, God of Thunder. But my little one saw this come off the printer and he just absolutely loved it. He wanted to keep it for himself. So I may end up printing another one of these, maybe trying to make it a little bit larger. And again, I'm very tempted to do some spray painting to it, some painting in general to it, take some brown paint and do the handle in it, and then do a little bit of silver accents along the way, something like that. I think it would really make it look nice. And hopefully I'm leaving enough room in here to be able to show the time lapses of these as well. And I will say, things have actually sped up quite a bit, partially because a new version of software for the M3D came out, so that's improved the speed a little bit. Now, the other sort of superhero themed thing that I printed, this has got to be one of the most beautiful things that I have printed so far. I am Groot! This is a bust of Groot. Unfortunately, it is hollow. I'm not even sure if the model had any sort of depth to it, so I may have to actually learn how to take it into something like Cura or any other 3D modeling program and maybe fill it up. but the level of detail that this thing has on it is just absolutely amazing, and I hope you guys are able to see that. Now, unfortunately, there was a little bit of a mishap when it was printing. Because I didn't put supports in the print, it sagged down a little bit here in the chin, so there's a little bit of the chin that doesn't really connect quite perfectly. But other than that, the level of detail, the look of it, it's just absolutely amazing. And of course, you can fit it on a fingertip and play Groot. It's a fun little thing to do with the kids. Now, in another little bit of an update to something I did last week, one of the first things that I printed was this little tentacle stand. And as I mentioned in the last video, this is something that I was kind of wanting to reprint because I did it in a relatively low quality, I did it completely hollow, and I did it in PLA. And like I said, I do have enough phones laying around and enough desks to put them on that another stand wouldn't hurt. So I broke into the ABS this week. I'm actually printing an ABS right this second. And one of the first things that I printed was another one of these in bright glowing green. I thought it would look a lot better in green, plus a little bit of flexibility, which this doesn't really have much. I was surprised to find that this wasn't as flexible as I thought it was going to be, but a little bit of flexibility is definitely nice as well, and it's a tentacle in green is definitely where you want to be. And actually, since this was my very first print in ABS, I was kind of concerned that it was going to be, one, very, very smelly, and two, that it was going to warp and come up off the bed. But because this only has 4 small points of contact, nothing warped, nothing came off, it was actually almost difficult to take it off the bed. I think part of that has to do with, again, the updated software for the M3D. It doesn't have a heated bed, but because the software has been updated to deal with it a little bit better, it's able to print ABS a little bit better, just indoors. But the other thing I've printed in ABS at this point, other than what's printing right now, I reprinted this little 5-blade fan thing from the Microsoft Store Thingiverse page. Again, wanted to do it in ABS just so it would be a little bit more flexible. And as you might be able to see there, it is a little bit more flexible than the previous one was. The previous one was very brittle. Within the first couple of days, actually right after I made the video, it broke pretty horribly. My wife was just spinning it around and shooting it around the room. It's gone now. And like the second or third time that she tried it out, one of the blades snapped off. I had already snapped one of them off and glued it back. And so I've spun it as hard as I could, and another 2 or 3 popped off. So it was just like, that's it. We'll just do it over again. We'll do it in ABS and we'll see how it turns out. So I'm gonna give this a fair shake. I'm gonna let the little one try it out and the wife. Now, unfortunately, you might not be able to tell this, but there are 2 of the blades here that actually warped quite a bit on the plate. They pulled up away from the plate. I had a raft down, so I probably shouldn't have used the raft, but it did pull away. So it is a little bit bent. I may take a hairdryer to it and see if I can straighten it out, but it's really not that big of a deal. So yeah, overall lessons learned this week. 1, ABS is not quite as burnt plastic smelling as I've been led to believe. It does have a little bit of an odor to it, but it's really not bad. I'm not in an enclosed space. As you can see behind me, there is an open doorway and then lots of area, and we've got very high ceilings. And I do open the door regularly just to let in a little bit of fresh air, but I've not had any problem with it so far. Of course, all I've printed at this point are a couple of small things, and that's taken a total of about 3 hours. So it's not something I'm gonna wanna do a ton of indoors. If I end up doing something larger, I'll probably wanna take it outside, and I'll probably wanna figure out a way to enclose it. But anyway, that is the majority of what I've printed this week. There's actually a couple of other things. I'm not quite done with them, but I figure I'll save that for next week's video. And of course, next week I'll have more things that I will have printed by that point. I may try doing some jewelry. I may try doing some action figures. If there's anything in particular you would like to see me print, I've had several people request cell phone cases. Unfortunately, because this is my primary cell phone, there's not a case that I can print that will fit. I've tried getting it to fit in the software, and if I do it like this in the software, it might actually fit, but that means a ton of support material and it being at a really weird angle. So it's not really likely with this printer. If I do upgrade to a larger printer down the road, I might be able to print something like that in ABS. And the other thing I've been very tempted to look into reprinting are parts for the quadcopter, different prop guards and maybe even props and replacement pieces, things like that. So I'm gonna be trying that out with ABS in the coming week. I'm also gonna be going back over to the gray PLA plastic to get more beautiful things like this out of it. But if there's anything else you'd like to see, definitely let me know down in the comments. Hit thumbs up if you like this kind of video, subscribe to receive more videos when they become available, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye guys.